This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Do you work in the film industry? Are you freelance? Or perhaps you have a 9 to 5? No matter what you do, mental health affects us all. I struggled early on in my career with the uncertainty of if and when I would ever work again, struggling to pay my bills, or simply with anxiety. Don't know about you, but being an actor, it's very important for me to maintain structure in the downtimes, and I found not only exercise, but talking to someone for me was a game changer. And so Life in Film has partnered with BetterHelp to provide you with access to the largest online therapy service in the world. And it can all be done from the comfort of your own home, from a phone, tablet or laptop. No commute, cutting down travel costs, and most importantly, it's affordable. With over 1,000 therapists in the UK, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. If you need someone to talk to and you're thinking of giving therapy a go, BetterHelp is a great option. And being a listener of the podcast, you get 10% off. That's 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lifeinfilm. That's betterhelp.com/lifeinfilm.
I wanted this summer to be remembered. Next Friday, I'll be 3 years since they told me that they didn't think I'd make it more than 3 years.
That's it then. We're celebrating that.
They've not seen the worst of it like us, though, have they?
What are you studying in this ridiculously heavy book?
It's interesting.
When something is burned, its particles are released into the atmosphere to last on forever. We're going to build the biggest fire that we possibly can, and we'll burn the items that we collect, like Vikings. And in doing so, I'll live on.
You're taking him from all of us!
Sid, what's he talking about?
You're dying and you haven't even told her! All I want is for someone to treat me as if I'm a normal person!
It's love. It makes us lunatics.
I love you all, and the best part of my life has been getting to know all 4 of you. What we're doing now means that I can be there with you. Always.
Boys, are you there? The awkward pause before they join. Here he is. Where's Jamie?
Technology, man. Technology.
His internet is, I'm concerned. We did a practice run for the audience that are already watching, and it didn't go well, so hopefully this goes better.
Oh yeah, Jamie's not holding out, trust me.
I'll see if I send it again.
How are you then, man?
I'm good. I mean, mate, I don't want to obviously get into it when we start talking, but that whole thing last night, people watching this, Connor's film, Kindling, we went to the premiere last night, and it was just, man, I was watching it, like, it was really emotional, man. It felt like it's like one of those things when you're doing a film, you're in a film, and you're watching it and you're stressed. I was stressed watching it for you. I was like, ugh, but mate, it's so good.
What, in the hopes that it wasn't just an absolute dreadful film?
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's always like that when you don't, like, I've had no part of this, but like when you watch something that you're in or something like that, it's always that thing of, is it going to be good? And I really felt a part of this. Like, I felt invested in it. So,
well, dude, you are in so many ways, but I just saw Jamie put a message saying he hasn't got an invite.
Okay, I'll try him again. If not, we can always go through his Instagram instead of Kindling.
Oh, yeah,
it was the Kindling one, wasn't it?
Yeah, here he is.
Here she is. Can you hear us, right? Right, boys. I was just saying to Connor, obviously you didn't see it, Jamie, but watching the film last night, I was super stressed. I felt so invested, and I felt like I was watching a film I was in, that I was, watching going, I hope this is good. And I loved it, boys. I absolutely loved it. It was emotional. It was brilliant. And for the audience, this movie has taken you, years to get off the ground. It's your first feature film. Before we get into talking about how it all came about and, the whole process, I want to start with a couple of quick-fire questions just to sort of ease you up.
Loosen us up.
Ease you up, get you loose. But first off, actually, can you introduce yourselves and explain essentially what your part of this movie was and what you do? Connor, if you start.
Cool. I'm Connor O'Hara. I wrote and directed Kindling, which is an upcoming film coming out on Friday, and co-own Lowkey Films with Jamie.
Cool. Jamie?
I own the other half of Lowkey Films with Connor. I'm a producer. I'm the producer of Kindling along with Mark Foligno. And Connor and I have been working together now for probably coming on 10, 12 years, maybe, Con?
Yeah, since we had hairlines.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you're two young guys, you're still two young guys, even after all this time.
Thank you, Elliot.
Off the ground. Not an old boy like me. And you've taken all this time to get this movie off the ground. I mean, just so impressed, the whole thing for the audience listening to this. It was essentially Curzon, Soho, this big premiere, all these people there, the audience were loving it. Huge round of applause when the film finished, and it really was. It was very emotional. And the movie is Kindling. It comes out this weekend, Friday, I believe, 21st. It's going to be on VOD, so Sky, Amazon, things like that. It's also getting a small cinema release. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the film and how you made it, a couple of quick fire questions. This is just so ease you up. So, first one. What was the first film you saw, Connor?
As a baby.
Yeah, first film you remember, the thing that really
I've got vivid memories of watching Shrek, but I can't work out how old it would have been. I'm told the first film I saw was Lion King, because that was 94 and I'm 93. So I'm told that was my first cinema experience was Lion King. So I can't remember it, but that was the first film that really had an impact with me. Wasn't Shrek, it was Lord of the Rings. But,
a few years later.
First film in my memory is probably Fantasia, the Disney Fantasia. I loved that as a kid, just the use of music and visuals. I remember as a kid sitting there conducting a load of broomsticks, and none of them sadly would move.
That film's dark. If you
really
watched it recently, but you watch it a little bit older, and you're like, this is kind of a harsh kids film, but
it is.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a classic. In terms of Jamie, I know you do a lot of traveling. Connor, I don't actually know so much if you do, but you boys, are you more of a home birds, or are you happy on holiday? Connor.
I mean, go on, Con. Yeah, you go first.
Well, I can't travel that much because Jamie's always away, so I've got a whole support here. No, we've both been really lucky over the past few years to actually work's taken us away a fair bit. So we've been really lucky to actually go and see some places, and that's the crazy thing about going away with your best mate, working. It feels like a bit of a dream, to be honest. But I'd say both of us, not to make it too work related, but we've struck a really good sort of work-life balance where we're very strict with start at 9, finish at 6. Make sure that frankly, the most important people in our lives are people outside of work. It's our partners, our families. So we're very strict. I wouldn't call that homebody. I just say it keeps us very we prioritize people that are close to us. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Jamie's always. I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised you got this film done. The amount of holidays you've done.
Well, the thing is, I use Instagram for mostly personal stuff, so that my Instagram is just full of holiday pictures.
And now I apologise.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, Connor's very right. We have struck a really good work-life balance, but very much love a holiday, love a weekend. Going to Japan in a few weeks to celebrate the release of Kindling, which I'm very excited about.
Amazing. Now, I apologise for this next question. It's something I haven't dared to ask anyone because it's a bit. I heard it somewhere. It made me laugh. But what's the worst thing you've ever put in your mouth?
Wow.
When I was 8 or 9 or something like that, my parents, you know, that show I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
Yeah.
We did like I'm a School Kid, Get Me Out of Here, and
Wow.
just did it in like my back garden, and I remember I think I put elephant poo in my mouth.
Wow.
That's
that'll be the one.
Can you live up to that one, Jamie?
When I was at playgroup, I had a friend who we called them cheesy bugs, and they were what we now know as wood lice, and we used to eat cheesy bugs.
Wow, that's good. Both very good answers.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to try and
We
go
used to
back
cheese
more
off a
onto-
wood lice.
That's Lordy. The person that's just commented is Connor's publicist in disguise.
Right, so this question is a bit more kind of, back on the film route, but what was the hardest part of getting your first feature made? Big question.
It's not like one big thing, man, but just not giving up. And I know that sounds so sort of like cliched, but it took us 6 years, and there's points in that 6 years where you kind of feel like, I particularly was calling up Jamie, being like, it has to happen this summer, like it has to. And looking back on it, there's no real reason it did have to. It's just that feeling of like, you want to be moving forward in your life, and you have the ability. But looking back on it, that was the hardest thing. Just frankly practicing patience. And I think I've learned a lot out of making the film in patience. Because actually now I look back on it and don't think, oh, I wish it happened quicker. I'm really proud of like the time it took. But I'd say the hardest thing was just generally like time going by, aging, feeling like you're not doing something. But yeah, we did,
You certainly did, man. You certainly did. Jamie?
Eventually.
I guess as a producer, it kind of plays in a little bit to the time aspect, and it wasn't hard doing this, but there's definitely times where, it's like not selling out almost. It's like staying true to the creative and making sure that at the end of it, we were always going to make the film that we set out to make, which we really did. But along the way, you're offered deals to make the film that aren't the right, it's not the right deal. It's not the representation of the film that we ultimately wanted and needed to make. And I think while it wasn't, we so believed in what we were doing, it wasn't difficult to say no, but of course it was in some respects. But now looking back, obviously so glad that we did it in the way we did.
Yeah, man, good answer.
Yeah, I feel like it's
That was
always
hard.
like that with you, isn't it? It's like, sorry, there's a bit of a delay there. If I'm sitting here going, it's because you haven't finished yet. Sorry, go on.
Jay spot on. No, Jay spot on. Like, you just wanted to get it done, and we got some offers that weren't right, or they weren't attractive creatively, but they're attractive financially. And I feel really proud that actually we really just stuck to making the film we wanted to make. And yeah,
agreed.
So, this I'm sure you know already. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and I feel like this film is very, in keeping with that. It's about a group of young kids growing up and dealing with a very difficult circumstance. For you guys, like, everyone deals with mental health differently, but everyone deals with it at some point in their life. Do you have coping mechanisms that keep you kind of not mentally sane, but like keep you kind of positive? Because this industry is a tricky one to navigate, and sometimes it can get you down. Do you have like things that you do that keep you kind of uplifted and keep you going?
Boundaries, man. And I think there's so much stuff in this industry which is always like putting work first. You're not going to be successful unless you literally live, breathe, sleep this thing. And I think actually prioritizing people who actually matter in your life, like friends, family, that's a real good coping mechanism. And then therapy as well has been definitely a good thing, for both of us. We've both been to therapy about various things. And I think, to tackle it head on, the film's about talking, and it's, Sometimes you can talk to your friends, that's really helpful. Sometimes you actually just need to talk to someone who's professionally advised. So, yeah, lots of mechanisms. What would you say, Jay?
It's so cliche because it's all that anyone says, but talking is like, and I've never been the best. I used to think I was really open and honest about my feelings, and I've learned in the last I've learned through making this film, frankly, that I wasn't, and I hope to be more, in that way inclined now. I just think when you share your issue, like I used to just head down, I'm the only person that can solve this, and I have to get out of it on my own, and there's no point me bothering anyone else. But it's such a ignorant way of thinking, and I think if you're able to just share what's going on in your mind, people can just put it into perspective for you. You'd be surprised at the suggestions that come out, and even if they can't suggest anything or help you out, there's just when you talk about things, a problem shared is I've forgotten the saying.
Problem halved.
That's it. Thanks, Con.
We'll change that in the edit.
Thanks.
So it's a very important. And this film really, that was one of the things when I was watching it. I felt like it really got that the friendships and the relationships, and there's a couple of scenes in there where you're like, if it was done wrong, you'd be like, guys that age don't talk to each other like that. But it was done so well that I was watching it and I was really kind of, it was getting me, man. I was like, this really reminds me of my childhood, and I know for you guys, we kind of grew up in a similar place. So it was kind of like I was watching me and my mates, which I'm sure that's probably one of the things that with this movie you're aiming for with the audience. You want people to watch it and go, oh yeah, no, that's
totally.
what, I was
totally, man. But I really think that's also credit to the actors. Like, so many of the great scenes, like the script was what it was, but the actors came on board and improvised so many of the best moments, man. Like, and I use the script as kind of like a guideline, but when those boys got together, it was so exciting because anything could happen, and some of the best lines, like around the fire, or the best looks, or the best sort of little conversations, like the pub scene, that was kind of just rattled off from the day. And I think the stuff that makes it feel real is the fact that we kind of lent into this ability to make an indie film a real indie way. Like, we didn't have a studio behind us being like, everything has to be signed off legally. We just literally got there each day and we're like, how does this scene feel like it should work? And it was just super exciting, man. Really great for that. And I think that's what's brought out the real, like, naturalistic responses.
Sorry, my cat's on a mad one. If you can hear that, he's getting mental. Don't know if you can hear that. Well, with this movie, like, for people that have just joined, that are just listening now, Infinite, that's the short film. Kindling, sorry, we'll explain that later. Well, it was a short film.
We'll get into that.
But the movie is out this weekend. But how did it come about? Like, what was the kind of start to it all? And how did you guys, like, meet and start wanting to sort of, make things in film?
I'll start this one off, Con. So Connor and I met in a band when we were about 15. We were in what I like to describe as rival bands. Oh, look at that.
Sorry, Hugo.
Oh, it looks like my sister's cat.
Sorry, carry on.
We were in like rival bands, and we basically decided one day at a sleepover that we were going to try and not split those bands, but we form a super group between our two bands. And so, we played in the band together for about 3 years. And throughout that process, we were booking other bands to play with us, booking tours. As literally like 16, 17-year-olds, we were going online and saving up like from jobs to buy merch and selling merch. So we didn't realize, but we were running our own little business basically. And then when the band split up, because we all went to university, and then I think it was literally just one day, Connor and I were chatting, and Connor had always wanted to be a director. And I really wanted to continue creating, but I didn't know what that was within the film space. But I started to move into the sound post sphere. And then, one summer, I think it was my second year of university, Connor and I just started making short zombie films, basically.
It's worth noting Alex Lincoln as well, because it was 3 of us at the time. Me, absolutely, because then we had a friend, Alex Lincoln, who's doing really well now, and he started by just acting and everything. Well, Jamie and him acting and everything, and that sort of, eventually we went from one short film to another short film, and then did Infinite, which is where we obviously met you, man, that brings you in. And why you cannot not call it Infinite, cannot call it Kindling. You keep
when I
Infinite,
emailed
right?
to RSVP for the premiere, I was like, yeah, I'll have a ticket for Infinite, and you're like, wrong film.
No, you won't.
No, you won't.
And
I would have
I think
it so hard.
just to now you've come onto the short in that way, Connor. Like, I think for us, making the short film was the first point where I think we both really believed that we like belonged, and people, I think a lot of people took a chance on us on that short, including yourself, Elliot. I remember casting you in that. I remember seeing you in Northern Soul, which is still to this day one of my favourite films ever. And like thinking, let's just try it. Like, I think he'd be great in our short little film. Why don't we just give it a shot? Give his agent a call. We'll pretend we're not in our final year of university, and I'm, in my pants writing my dissertation, and we'll see how it goes. And we'll see how it goes down. And you clearly really connected with the script and the story, and I think we made a beautiful little short. And I think it's because of people like yourself, obviously George Mackay, who's now 1917 and loads of amazing films. It just gave us that confidence to believe in ourselves. And so genuinely, again, it's cliched, but we wouldn't have made the feature and be where we are if you hadn't taken a shot on us back then as well. So it's definitely worth saying that.
Do you genuinely think that the short, like, obviously you'd probably do things differently now, but do you think the short was essential to get the feature made? Because I think that's a question a lot of people ask. Is it worth doing a short before doing a feature?
I think for a director, writer, producer, you've got to make a short first. Doesn't matter if it's not the absolute like linear, make a short film about a feature and then do the feature. I think, but you've got to cut your teeth and learn, and frankly, more than anything, make mistakes. Yeah. We definitely, because we didn't get the film financed through the BBC, BFI, anywhere else. I think the short film for us was really important because we basically had to prove not only that people could take a chance on us through like our ability to direct or produce, but also we had to prove that you could make a happy film about death, which I think is actually like, that was the biggest sell, is like how do you convince people that this film is not going to be just absolutely morbid, a struggle to get through, and actually has an uplift? And I think the short almost proved a tone more than it did anything else, and that was something we could share around, and people could be like, I get it. That's what you're saying when you're saying a happy film about death. Yeah.
You just touched on it there, but can you like explain to the audience what the film is about and the kind of the themes? We've touched on it a little bit, but just for anyone that's kind of not sure what the film's about.
For sure, man. Yeah. I mean, when I was 21, my friendship group lost 2 people close to us, and we made the short film. I essentially made it about when the conversations my friends had around that time and how we coped with the grieving of those people. And frankly, I wanted to put on screen this real emotional capacity that men had to deal with grief. So you guys came on board, and the story is essentially about Sid, who's the lead character. And in the knowledge that he's passing away, he asks his 4 closest friends to gather an item that connects him and the world. And then he believes that if he burns those items on a fire, the particles from those items will become a part of the atmosphere and keep him around forever. And it sort of taps into his like key feeling of wanting to be remembered. And I guess not to ruin the film, but the whole film is about the fact that no matter what you do in life, you'll be remembered. You're important because you existed. And while the whole film is around gathering these items and burning them on the fire, actually the key thing is Sid as a character, or we as people, will be remembered just because we've existed and we've had these impacts on people's lives, and we've hung out one night at a pub, and that's stuff that will actually be remembered. So yeah, that's the messaging around the film, I guess.
It's a light film. It actually is, though. That's the thing.
It is.
You managed to make something that could be very morbid into something that has a real light touch, and it's really like it just flies by. And there's lovely little moments in there of comedy, which you touched on it earlier. You said that that there was a lot of improvisation on top of after you'd shot the bits that you wanted to get of the script, there was improvisation. How much of there's a few moments with Mr. Bell. He came out with a couple of funny moments and things like that. Was some of that improvised then?
I would say with Jeff and Tara, they were more. Jeff actually would throw some things around, but it was mainly with the boys that was really sort of, and with Lily, it was really sort of playing around. It was when we all got together, we really bounced things off each other. And I think typically in the more sort of traditionally sad scenes, or the scenes where you sort of all the actors, you know, Wilson, George, were really bringing their A game. Actually, it felt like we almost went back to the script on those points. It was really the areas where they're allowed to have fun, you know, the fire at the end, the pub scene, where actually stuff could just bounce around and be really fluid.
Mm-hmm. And Jamie, for you, I mean, I feel like this has been a labour of love for both of you. But Jamie, being the producer on this, how did you go from doing short films, and then obviously Lowkey, your company, do all kinds of things, commercials, music videos? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
In terms of like producing a feature, how does that change a lot of things, or is it always quite a similar thing?
I mean, apart from the finance side of it, it is more similar than you'd imagine. I remember Connor started his film career in the art department on like big features, and Ram Bergman said to him one day, as the producer of Star Wars, you know, short films are exactly the same as what we're doing on Star Wars, just Star Wars has a load more zeros on the end of the budget. You know, you've just got more money. And that really is, we didn't have more money on Kindling, sadly, but doing a feature film is it's a bigger version of a short film and music videos. What obviously you need to do is you do need to still find quite a lot of money to make a feature film of this level anyway. And that's definitely the part that is more challenging.
And also, I feel like every actor, producer, director, people that are in the industry, if they're coming up and they're trying to get to where they want to be, they're all trying to meet the right people and collaborate with the right people. And you know, there's a lot of cowboys in this industry. You two are genuinely two of the best guys I've ever met in the industry. You really do what you say, and you're honest people. And you know, we've all been bitten by those snakes over the time of being in this industry. But how lucky you guys that you met really early on. Like you were obviously very young when you got going. And how do you now, like with your own company, everything else, when you bring in new people, do you still keep that kind of family vibe, that close kind of closeness as you're kind of getting bigger, as you're moving forward up the ladder?
Absolutely. I mean, I know Connor will have things he wants to say about this, but it is so important to us. And, you know, talking about Kindling again, we crewed and frankly cast this film the way that we want to continue working forever. It wasn't about CVs, it was about chemistry tests. You know, it was not only for the actors and for the cast, and I'm sure Connor will talk about that a bit more, but for the crew, it was about, can I spend 25 days in a very intense, you know, it is intense making a film, and this film is very emotional, and in order to get those honest performances on screen, we needed to have 30, 40 people off screen also bonding in exactly the same way. And you can't make films like this and in the way that Connor and I want to make films without making sure that the people you're bringing on board and the way you bring them on board is done in the right way. So yeah, it's just so crucial.
Mm-hmm. Connor, have you got anything?
There they are. There's a couple of crew on the chat.
No, man, it was exactly that. Like we used to say, like, a company that's like founded on friendship, like that had to be in the DNA of everything we did. And to be honest, man, the more we've done stuff, the more we kind of grow into this mentality of like, you just got to like remind yourself that you're just a kid who's lucky to make films. And as soon as you lose that, it's like you've lost the whole thing, and you might as well just give up, you know. And I think for us, it was just so important to make this first film with like a really safe atmosphere, or as safe as you could make it, and just try and enjoy it as much as possible, man. And it's something that we really, really strive to do across all departments, you know, music videos, commercials. You've got to, you know, when I was on Poppins, there's all these big Mary Poppins, all those big HODs arguing. And I remember one of my bosses came up to me and he said, "Do you reckon we should remind them that they're making a kids film?" And it was literally like a light bulb moment for me, because I've been taking it so seriously, and I still take it so seriously. But it was just that reminder of, yeah, we're making a kids film, or we're making a film about like joy, or we're making a music video for a really cool artist. Like, we need to celebrate it and not just make it always so like clerical and, I don't know, basically just like dull. Yeah.
No, that's a very good point. That was one of the things about the short when I remember, like, what is it, 2016? So yeah, a long time ago now. But like, I remember reading the script and being like, oh yeah, no, cool. I really like the script. I really like the concept, and I like all the. But it was actually, I can't remember the process now, but I think we had a phone call or something. There was definitely a point where I spoke to one of you two, and it was the passion. I was just like, these guys really like are passionate about this, and they want to make something really good. They're a little bit crazy, but I want to be involved with this. But the fact that you got, like, I remember, like, kind of, I don't know if I came first or second, but I remember hearing that George Mackay was going to do it, and I was like, oh wow, these boys are legit. How did they rope him in? He's like, you know, I mean, he's smashing it now, but he was smashing it then as well. Like,
we were like, oh wow, man. Like, as Jamie said, he was literally in his pants at uni and cast George Mackay having to, like, pretend to be like this.
And then it was a moment where, you know, you all said yes, and we were like, oh shit.
You know, gotta do it now.
Oh god, yeah. Like,
I remember that. I remember, like,
we should probably get insurance.
Yeah, I remember adding all your names to the IMDb and looking at it, and at that point I had, like, never shot on, like, an ARRI camera. I'd only shot on, like, Canon, and it was just like, better learn, like, better figure this out. So it's like, yeah. But we've all, man, I think that's the thing. Like, we're all just setting goals and trying to beat them, and yeah.
That's something to just add on to that, which I think is, you know, Connor and I have never been to film school. Nobody taught us how to do this. It's just been, like, frankly, putting ourselves into situations like that, which, you know, it's kind of paid off in a way, but you have to, I don't say you should run before you can walk, because that's not the way to do it, but you've got to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And I mean, I'm going to say another, I'm far beyond my years. I'm going to say another really cliche quote, but no, what was it? And it made me really, whenever I'm really under pressure, I always know diamonds are created under pressure, you know, and I love that. I know it's like, I'm like a dad.
Jamie's got that tattooed on his ankle.
Shut up. But honestly, it's in moments like that I know it's the sort of thing like your auntie shares on Instagram, but it is so true. And you go into that fight or flight mode, and Connor and I have been in that situation too many times for me to kind of keep count, but we've always flown, I like to think. Or hang on, fight or flight. I can't remember the positive one.
You're good, man. Yeah.
But I love that you guys can do that together as well. It must feel nice to know that you got each other's back, and you're like, right, okay, we're going to go for this. It's a big swing, but we're going to do it together. And, like, if we fail, we'll just get back up again.
Man, it is exactly that. But also, we always remember that we're really lucky to have each other. Not everyone else has that. So we've got to bring that to everyone else as well, if you know what I mean. Like, otherwise it would just become like the two of us club, and we're on set and suddenly it's just the two of us and everyone else sort of feels like they're kind of... So I think what we almost do is we're like, we know we've got that with each other. So almost we like let that go when we get onto set, and then we sort of, because we know we've got that camaraderie, we know it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no,
Connor's
possible.
frozen.
He was going to say we're good at finishing each other's sentences. Luckily. Oh my God.
There we go. He's back. Yeah, no, you're back now. So what was that last bit? If you can repeat it, because I don't know if they can hear that.
I said it was about me and Jay just being like tight and it being really nice. But I think we're aware of that. We also don't want it to become like the two of us against everyone else. And I think what we almost do is we get to set, and almost actually I'd say sometimes on set is when, not we're the least close, but I think we kind of like very much use that ability to connect with each other with everyone else. So we kind of get to set and utilize that. We know it's possible to have that relationship on set. So yeah, we go from there.
I guess you got shorthand though. You don't need to, like, sometimes when you're on set with people you haven't worked with before, you need to kind of do the courtesies. You need to do, you know, there's certain things you need to do. But with you guys, you probably ignore each other, and you don't need to speak because you've known each other so long. It's like, we just get on with our job.
And in a way, that was oddly the more difficult thing about, you know, expanding Lowkey or bringing people in, you know, to work with us, was Connor. It was just Connor and I for so long, and we got used to just reading each other's minds and it all being kind of internal. And I think it's so important to, while you have that shorthand, you need to find a way to communicate that with other people you know, making a film is such a team game. There's so many people involved, and so that's definitely, especially Kindling, was something we learned a lot about.
I want to ask this partially for myself, for any other writer that's trying to get their script made. Once you'd done the short, you'd already achieved, you know, the fact that you got that made, and as you say, amazing cast. You got that made. You had that. But to actually get the feature film made, how did you go about getting that script out and getting it in front of the right people? Was that, I mean, I kind of, you know, I saw it from the sidelines, you guys working really hard to get this thing done. But how long was that process, you know, for people that are watching this that are trying to do the same thing? And what did you need to do to kind of get to where you are now?
Yeah, it's got to be yours, Jay.
I mean, I guess there's so many ways of answering this, but my biggest, and it's definitely not, you know, there are so many writers that have just started off writing exciting pieces of work that are entertaining, and, you know, comedy writers that do really well, that there might not be much of their personal story in there. But, you know, I start with this script and this story, because I believed in it, also because Connor and I have, you know, we're brothers, you know, we're there for each other in so many ways, but I knew that people had to understand this story and connect with it. And I think if you're a writer, for me, if you're writing a story that has so much of your own voice and in yourself in there, you can keep talking about that for years and pushing it, because you know that it has to be seen. So that's me just saying, like, if it was a bit of advice for a writer, things can take so long, but I think your voice is the thing that people want to hear the most about.
Matt, I like you've answered the writing one. I'll answer your producing one.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I like that. No, because I think it's spot on. But then I think from a producing side, the thing that Jamie was always, you know, man, we were so naive, and I guess that was our biggest, like, strength. We literally just came out of the short film and were like, feature, and man, it took 6 years to get the finance, and it was hard, and we learned everything, and sometimes it was 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. But man, Jamie was messaging people on LinkedIn, going to like investor meetups in London. Like, we didn't have a clue how to do it, so we just sort of pursued everything. And I think there was something really exciting about that, looking back, because it almost felt like weirdly like limitless. And maybe knowing what we know now, we wouldn't have the confidence to go back and do that. You know, if we hadn't had that sort of almost like naivety just to put ourselves out there in every means possible, in every way possible, maybe we wouldn't have ever got here. You know, it's quite exciting to think about that.
It really is. And maybe to go into it a little bit more meta, you mentioning LinkedIn, you know, that's like, some people thank Tinder for their marriages all those years, the old Bumble, and, you know, I'll thank LinkedIn for this film getting made, frankly, because Connor's right. I was I didn't know how to finance a film. You know, I did not know how we were going to do this, but I was going to try really hard to make sure it happened. You know, you'd start off just essentially connecting with people, building a finance plan, trying to find investors. And we were 22, 23, like, who is going to give essentially £1 million to a couple of kids to make a feature? Like, then I was like, I would, you know, back then, but now I look back and I'm like, not a chance. So I was like asking people to invest and stuff, but then I realized we were going to have to learn a bit more. And the best thing I did was I just started to tell more experienced producers that I had an ambition to make this feature. We did this short. Connor and I were running a company together. We were doing all these different things, and I really wanted to meet up and talk to them for advice. So then they weren't being put under pressure to try and get the film made and help finance it. And I think that was really the thing that unlocked the whole thing for us. And then, yeah, I remember it really specifically over a Christmas period. I was introduced on LinkedIn to Mark Foligno, who produced the film with me, and he's an exec producer on The King's Speech, and Moon has an amazing credit history. And it took him ages to read the script, honestly, like ages. And I remember non-stop, like, I mean, it was brutal.
How long?
Him.
We need to know how long.
Well, I say ages. It's probably genuinely. It's probably 4, 5, 6 months, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, like because people's lives are so busy, and Mark didn't know who we. He had no clue. He owed us nothing. He just said he liked the sound of the script and the idea, and he'd love to take a read. But so many people, so many people say that in this industry. But he finally did, and we met up with him. We got on we got on with him so well. He wanted to make the same film that we did and had the same objectives. And then it was still about 4 years, three or 4 years. Still after meeting Mark, that it took to get the film made. But that was definitely a turning point.
So let me get this straight. LinkedIn worked at the time, but now what would you do differently the second time round? I'm guessing, as you said, you wouldn't be maybe confident enough to do it that way this time. So if I'm sure you will, and you already are, I'm sure. But like, what's your go-to now to get a feature film made? Is it a different route?
Yeah, I guess I was going to ask, do you mean if we were to go back and do it again, or do you mean now for like another film?
No, I mean, like, obviously what you've done and you're happy with what you've done and the film's great. Leave that alone. But like, in terms of like, what would you do? What are you going to do now? Like, in terms of moving forward and making your next feature, are you going to do it differently?
Ethics-wise, creativity-wise, the people we work with wise, absolutely not. Do you know what I mean? Like we love the way that it was made, so that's gonna be exactly the same. But yeah, I think we've learned so much, man. And of the 6 years making Kindling, probably four of them were just learning, and so I guess things will be a bit quicker. We've learned a lot about like packaging a feature film, and at the moment I'm working on my next script, and we won't be just like sending it out to people randomly. We'll get fully sort of we'll get everything right behind closed doors, knowing that, if we can attract a lead actor who has a good level of financeability, we can then go tap that into a good sales agent, and we'll just build it a bit differently, and in the right order that we've only learned through not doing that on Kindling, I guess.
I've just noticed someone asked the question, is there anything else in the pipeline? Is there anything you can actually talk about? I've obviously said you're writing your next thing, but is there anything that you can be specific about it? Or?
Sure, man. We as a company have we have a slate of features that are all in like very good late stages of development. We've gone out to lead cast on all 3 of them now, actually. So we're really in like a good space. None of them are my projects, because what we find really exciting is Lowkey is not just me and Jay. It's bringing in other directors. It's building up talent through music commercial. And yeah, I mean, my next project, whenever that will happen. But yeah, for now, the next 3 are all actually external directors, which is really exciting.
Oh wow, amazing! And for the audience that are listening to this, obviously people are throwing out questions. Feel free to ask questions. But that's amazing. I'm glad to hear that there's like things in the pilot, because that's the thing that people always say, isn't it? That if you've got a success or you've got a film that you're proud of, that people are enjoying, always have that next thing ready.
Yeah,
because that's what everyone's going to ask you.
It's man. We've sort of done it in so many. We wanted to finish Kindling and have the next Lowkey projects, and then I kind of got to like Christmas this year and was like, oh shit, what's my project? So like, this year's been really like, right, I'm going to catch up as well. But it feels good, man. Like, hopefully Kindling will come out and we'll use the leverage of that to like help the other projects through, and it's all about like feeding that ecosystem kind of thing.
We're going to have to wrap up soon. I'll let you guys go, but there's a couple more things I just want to touch on.
Your dinner going cold?
Yeah. Katie's like, get down. No, just I know you guys have been really busy today. Like, obviously, this is the day after the premiere, and
I'm really enjoying it.
Other interviews and stuff, and you've been doing a day's work, I'm sure. And I've been here, as Jamie says, in my pants, like he was sending out emails. But yeah, I wanted to ask, this is obviously just a tradition for the podcast, but do you guys have a most embarrassing moment that you can share with us that perhaps is to do with this film, or perhaps not, just a moment that you are willing to share so the audience can have a good old laugh?
Should have thought about this.
I did pre-warn them.
Yeah, I don't, other than the entire first year of being in the industry. Do you know what I mean? Like looking back
Yeah.
at that, you know, like you're so greener, man. And you come on the sets and there's just this jargon you don't understand, and people are talking about things, and you're like, I haven't got a Scoobies, like what you're talking about. And for me, you know, like I remember someone going like, "Oh, can you go get the sticks?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll get the sticks."
Yeah,
and walking up into the kit room and being like, "Sticks." So I basically came back with like a pole from a C stand, and he was like, "No, man, get the sticks." And I was like, "Sticks, right?" And like went back and was like, "I don't know." And also, I'm not trying to show my age too much, but I don't remember having a phone that could Google stuff at that point. So maybe I had like BlackBerry still or something like that. And yeah, just anyway, just didn't Google it. And I just was like, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. And just coming back like with two things again, just being like sticks, and just feeling like I was wanted the world to swallow me up, you know. But
did you ever have the whole initiation where, because for those that don't know, I started off in the camera department, and like so all that jargon and learning all those things was kind of, you know, part of what I did when I first started. Did you ever have the initiation like where, you know, someone your elder was like, get a glass hammer or the sky hooks, or like anyone kind of like play around with you, and you're there trying to find sky hooks, you're asking everyone, and people are going, "Oh yeah, no, they're in the van, mate." And you're just there like,
I didn't, but I had, you know, I had a lot of weird ones on my first job with Star Wars, and I remember I had to go like get like, I think it was like 3 metric tons. Sorry, I'm about to say something crude. 3 metric tons of fisting gel. And that sounds like a joke, but I had to get that from a factory because we were having to cover Carrie Fisher's hand in this like lubricant liquid. And then I remember someone sent me to a shop to go get some KY jelly. So I went into like the home goods and the home baking aisle, and I asked the person at Sainsbury's like, "Oh, where's the KY jelly?" And they were like, "Wrong aisle, mate. You want to for that stuff." So I didn't actually get sent on like a goose chase. I just got asked to do weird things, I guess.
Do you have any awkward questions you've been asked on set? Or
I've got way too many embarrassing stories to list for this podcast. The rap party of this film.
Your speech.
My speech at this rap. Probably, yeah, any speech that I do after I've had probably 1 or 2 beers, so it's normally quite embarrassing.
No, bless Jamie. He had like worked his arse off producing the film, and then the rap party came along, and he'd let us head me.
So yeah, that. What else? I think Colin is so right. Like you think back to the early days of Lowkey, and again, I look back on the emails that I sent around trying to get Kindling made for the first time, and this is people might not actually understand this, but like when you finance a film, there are a few things that would get you finance. An A-list actor, you know, if you've got Tom Cruise, or not even necessarily that, you know, Sam Claflin off the back of Daisy Jones and the Six, or actors like that, you can get the money. You will finance your film. Same if you had a director that's done 3 films that have made, etc., etc. Well, I didn't realise that, you know, 6-7 years ago, but I had, and these were in my emails, I had the director of this film was the set deck assistant on Star Wars 8, you know, and my email, and we did have an Oscar-winning production designer originally, which the multi-Oscar-winning production designer, which Peter Young, which is actually incredible, but
ain't gonna get your film made.
It's not going to get your film made. And back then, I was going in with the headline of the pitch was,
"We have a schedule done."
Yeah, we have a schedule for a film that we did ourselves. And I think it was stuff like that naivety that Connor and I can look back on and really laugh. That if any of those emails saw the light of day, we'd probably be I would be a bit embarrassed.
Amazing. Well, guys, honestly, like all the best with the film. I say it again for anyone that's just joined this. Like the film comes out this Friday. It's going to be on Sky, Amazon, Apple, and it's going to get a small cinema release as well. But it genuinely is like it really captures that youth, young guys, and you know, it's an emotional ride, man. And I think it's great. So I'm sure it'll smash it. But I love you guys. And
love you too,
love you too, bro.
Thank you for having us.
It's all good. It's all good, guys. It's all good. And we'll speak soon.
Thank you for everyone that stayed with us and was listening to us as well. See you all very soon.
Is there anything you want to say? Anything else I've missed? Anything you want to talk about? Anything else at all?
Man, I don't know. Like, if this has a life outside of this talk, the main thing we want to do is this film's meant to get people talking. And if they want to talk to their friends, great. If they also want to talk to us and hit us up and message about, it's a film about grief, it's a film about communicating, and if we're opening ourselves up to it. People absolutely feel free to talk to us about it. If they've got no one else, we're here.
Awesome. Guys, I think that's a lovely way to finish it. And I appreciate you both. And thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
What's up, man?
Take care. Have a great evening.
Now we've got to figure out how to get off this quickly and not be awkward about it.
It's a Laughing Film, motherfucker. Subscribe.